kia ora again. To those who are watching the video, the first part of what I said wasn't caught, so the prayer meeting's just ended, and I've been asked to say the very start of what I said again. So Dave Mann, Shining Lights Trust. Michael in the meeting is my co-worker and actually does most of the work around the Christmas efforts. The Shining Lights Trust exists to identify gaps in the outreaching efforts of the church as a whole, to try and help encourage and see innovation come to plug those gaps. Looking at Christmas, different societies have cultural traditions and festivals. And so just to give the introduction, and very shortly you'll go to the video of the actual prayer gathering. But in our own culture, our festivals have been established through government to try and preserve key things from history that carry values that we want to preserve within our culture, because this is fundamental to who we are. So you might think of Labour Day, we've got King's Birthday, we've got Waitangi Day, we've got Anzac Day. But within that mix, we also have Easter and Christmas. And the question has to be why? And the answer is because these festivals have been established as cultural festivals because they contain information to preserve story that's really significant to who we are. And to look at a biblical dynamic to this, we don't actually have to celebrate Christmas or Easter. It's not a biblical instruction. It's something we can opt to do as a cultural festival. We have to have baptism. We have to have communion. So what dates they're on, what they're called, what their history is makes no difference. They're cultural festivals. And the scriptures say, Paul said, one man considers one day holy, another considers every day alike. Let each be fully convinced in their own mind. These are gifts and opportunities given to us. And why were they established as festivals for us? Because we're living in one of the most free, prosperous, equality-based, charitable societies on the planet and in human history, expressly because of the influence of Christianity. It's not European culture, it's Jesus' culture that shaped who we are. And so Easter and Christmas, for all the arguments people might have for and against them, they're not biblical festivals because there's no instruction to have them. They're cultural festivals, but they're a remarkable opportunity. And there is an agenda to remove the Christian story from them. So we have a role to play. Hopefully that catches roughly where the record button was pressed, and I hope the rest makes sense. Now, one of our privileges online is that we get to engage with many of the public who have different thoughts about Christmas and Easter, and many Christians who are negative toward them as well. And I would simply say that I think these are a truly amazing opportunities, and we should kind of get over ourselves a little bit to recognize them for what they are. As a simple question, does the scriptures tell us that we have to celebrate the birth of Jesus as a festival? It doesn't. Do the scriptures tell us that we need to celebrate the death and resurrection of Jesus as a festival? They don't. The scriptures tell us instead that there is baptism, and then there is communion, in which we are supposed to remember the death and resurrection of Christ every time we as Christian believers gather to eat. In which case, what is Christmas and Easter? Even if they came from pagan myths, which they don't if we got into the details, even if the dates are wrong, it actually makes no difference because we're not biblically instructed to even celebrate these as festivals. So what are they? They're a cultural tradition. They're a tradition that Christian culture and then national culture has embraced. Why? Because cultural traditions are established to preserve values and stories within culture so that they stay within the people. Why then did we choose to celebrate Christmas and Easter as cultural festivals, like we also have Anzac, Labour Day, King's Birthday, Waitangi, and now Matariki? And the reason is simply because this is probably the biggest factor in history that defines who we are. We have a bicultural history and a Māori history. We have a European history, but I put to you that the European history that's most predominant isn't European. It's actually Christian. Where do our values of the freedom of speech come from? It is Christianity. Where does our democratic form of government come from with the idea of the limitation of powers? It's not from the republics of Greece way in the past. It is from Christian influence through history. How did slavery end? Christianity. What about the equality of races, this value that was there even to be enshrined in Te Tiriti or Waitangi? It came from Christianity. How about the equality of genders? It's from Christianity. What about our systems of law and government, and of a just law, and a law that sits over the king or the ruler or the government as well as the people, so those in power aren't immune to the same laws? It's the influence of Christianity in history. So we're sitting right now in one of the most free, prosperous, equality-based charitable nations in human history and in the world today. And the answer is because of Christianity. Here's the challenge. Those who control the present get to control the past. Those who can control the narratives of public media and the narratives of education can decide what history everybody does and doesn't know about. And so the things I just stated in terms of the explicitly Christian origins for most of our most amazing cultural values, the fact that they're from Christianity, I suggest most people in Parliament don't even know that, because we're already 2 or 3 generations short of being aware of who we are as a nation. So those who control the present can control the past. That's the danger. But here's where it really begins to take root, or the rubber hits the road. Those who control the present, or who tell the story, get to write the future. Those who tell the story write the future. When it comes to Christmas and Easter, there is a very definite agenda in our nation to remove Christ from them. You'll find it in newspapers every year. Before we started our efforts around Christmas and Easter, we'd identified at Christmas that even in the prior 15 years to that, councils right across the nation had removed Christian icons from their citywide decorations and their, the things that will hang from the lampposts and lighting. Sometimes you still find angels. You no longer find mangers and Jesuses and shepherds and Josephs and Marys. They were removed nationwide very quietly. And so if no one's going to tell our story for us, who's going to have to tell it? And I suggest it's us. We could protest and say, you've got to try and keep the Christ in Christmas and Easter. There are cultural stories and values to know about, but I don't think that will achieve anything. We instead need to get creative and to engage. And so Hope Project Christmas is really singularly about that idea. And I wonder if we now jump across, Gayan, please, to the PowerPoint. And I'll take you through what, first of all, is just a simple promotional PowerPoint. It can be downloaded by anyone. But I'd like to then show you some of the ideas of different things that people are doing to keep the Christ in Christmas. So Hope Project Christmas, a united effort to keep Christ in Christmas. I'll wave my finger, Gayan, just for the next slide, please. So sometimes it's hard to find Christmas within all the noise. I very much like that graphic because I think it portrays graphically exactly what it's like. There's jingle bells and sleighs and Santa Clauses and snow and trees, and it really is very hard to find Christmas within it. When in reality, the cultural tradition, that was a wave of the hand.
Sorry, I cannot see, my screen disappears, so I can't see you wave your hand. You'll have to say next screen.
Okay, next screen, please.
Yeah. Now I've got to bring up the other thing. Hang on.
Because the real thing is ultimately, of course, about Jesus. And it's about a child, it's about history. But these are festivals because of the significant influence of that child who was God incarnate, something that's truly profound. Next slide, please.
It's just a lag.
Okay. So next slide already. Would you like to see the Christ back into Christmas? If yes, there's a really simple strategy. And it's not a media project, though we will spend, 25,000 in social media. We'll engage with about 500,000 sort of New Zealanders ourselves through social media. But the real idea is that we can just ask everyone to unite in a goal. And then we fulfill that goal completely our own way. And the goal is simply, let's put nativity scenes back in Christmas. Let's put them into any place we can, next slide, in the public square for individuals, businesses, churches, and churches together to do things. So it's a very simple strategy. It can affect public perspective because when the public are asked, is Christianity still a part of Christmas? They'll look around the nation and they might not see much of it on TV, but they will see some of it online. And then they could see nativity scenes placed in a myriad of places by a couple of 100,000 Christians. And as an example of what churches can do together, this is a unity goal where the methodology is up to you. We're uniting in a goal to see Christ in Christmas, but we can all do it our own way. And I suggest this is an approach to unity that can be quite powerful. Next slide, please. So let's look at some ideas for individuals, then businesses, churches, and churches together. Here we have for individuals, very simply, how about we keep buying Christmas cards, if we give them, that have nativity scenes on them. I know they have been selling out at Kmart and at the warehouse. Let's keep that pattern going. We can do Facebook posts. If we say, Merry Christmas, friends, or whatever it is, simply include an image of a nativity. It keeps it in the picture. We have a picture there of what someone did on their lawn in front of their house. And so next slide, there's another example of creativity, doing something in your house that can be seen from the road. In terms of businesses could put up billboards or signs. They could do window decal, and that is available through the web link that you'll be told, $35 for a reusable one you could use year after year. They could take graphics like there is on that little sign sitting on a table inside a furniture store. And again, graphics for all these things can be downloaded for free. Next. In terms of churches, I want to give you some of the names of these different ideas and where these things are coming from. This one here comes from Heretaunga Christian Centre in Upper Hutt. And they have run an event that is called The Night That Changed the World the last few years, bringing the Christmas story to life with an interactive experience where people are taken back to the manger at Christmas and the way it changed the world forever. And what a fantastic statement that is from them. It's not just Jesus, a baby. This is God incarnate coming to earth who has changed the world forever, telling the bigger story. So incredible creativity with lights, with displays, and with people involved. Next slide. This here takes us to North Cross Community Church and what I think will have been the best Christmas lighting display in our nation's history. They've stopped doing it because the traffic problems became so big that the council, I believe, interrupted to stop them repeating it. But for quite a number of years, they had this drive-through nativity, multiple things to engage with, multiple characters, I think multiple Josephs and Jesuses and all the rest of it as well. The most amazing lighting displays by talented electricians who've spent 20 years building this incredible storehouse of different things. Their drivers are about 50 metres long and 50 metres out, all lit up with displays. You can go inside to engage. The bottom left there is an extra display that some of the Sparkies in the church set up just for the amusement of it on the grass outside the hospital on the North Shore, so that you've got the nativity scene there. Beautifully done, very artistic. Next slide. What could we do then together? The top here is the churches together in Levin in 2021 won the Christmas parade, and they had a multiple phase float. And so you've got some angels walking past and then some shepherds and then some wise men. You can see the horses that are inside that picture. And then you come through to a Joseph, Mary, a Jesus, and so on. And again, creative signs in front of each of the phases. Below that, you see an example of what a billboard could look like, actually taking one that Howard Community Church did place on the side of their building, but for some reason we decided that looked better, but easily done. And there's lots of graphics like that, again, free for the download. Next slide. This is the Get in the Frame title there belongs to the next page, but this is New Lynn Bible Chapel, who've been invited to join the local business association in New Lynn in a big event they run each year with Santa Claus and reindeer and things for children, but the church is invited in. And they've engaged clearly and sensitively with Christianity. There's activities. You can get a photo inside things like on that particular year, they've got an Instagram frame. It's Angela Meyer in the left of that photo of three women there who organises a lot of this. They've got gift packs that they give out. Next slide. This is in the frame, and this has come from the village church in Aotearoa. And there's two different things here. Fantastic creative idea. The question is, how do we get the nativity scene seen? And so the top two images and the right-hand one, they basically set up a photo opportunity for families. They've got the costumes to become the biblical characters or whatever you want. And if you want a family photo, rock on up, put on the costumes. They'll take a professional photograph, send it to your phone or your email, or use your phone to do it. And guess what? Now all the families that came to your event are posting nativity scenes of themselves on social media to all of their myriads of friends. Again, it's continually making the nativity scene seen, remembering the scene reflects the story. The bottom left is the same group, Village Church Aotearoa, who decided to take people in costume to the local shopping mall. And of course, guess what? People want photos with the wise men, Jesus and Joseph and Mary. To take it a step further, I have seen photos, whether it was them or not, with a sheep, I think, and a donkey going through a shopping mall, which you would need permission for, and a poop scooper. But again, that's a magnet for children and for families. And again, you can hand out flyers. We've got some great Christmas services or a Christmas carol gathering coming up in the park the churches are running. Please come along and join that. I have also seen people with a large wooden frame, which was a designed frame like a picture that two men would carry. And then that's placed in front of the Joseph and Mary characters. And then everyone comes and literally stands in a frame for a creative photo. Next slide, please. In terms of stories, I want to suggest to all the communicators, the pastors, the people who might speak to children or educators or youth and so on, The overarching story of Christmas, why do we celebrate Christmas and Easter as a culture? It's because Christianity established the primary values of our culture. That's the big story. We're, as I said earlier, one of the most free, prosperous, equality-based, charitable societies in the world today and in history, expressly because of Christianity. That's why it's a cultural festival, to remember the influence of Jesus, because it's important to who we are, to our freedoms and our well-being. However, if you need 3 specific stories, I've got 3 to recommend. These are 2 children's stories that are available, but I point out you can tell the story without buying the children's story. So if you want the children's story, go for it. But as communicators, the first story you've hopefully heard of, it's about a guy called Jesus, who was the Son of God. You're supposed to smile. That's the obvious one. The second story is the story of, which is titled here, The First Kiwi Christmas, of Chief Ruatara's invitation to the Reverend Samuel Marsden to establish a mission base in New Zealand to be able to bring blessing and engage with Māori, which led to the first Sunday Ruatara gave the opportunity for a Christian service for the first time ever on New Zealand soil with a Māori audience, and the date just happened to be Sunday, 25th December. So the first Kiwi Christmas is a second great story to be telling. And the third I suggest is the story of St. Nicholas, which is why this year we've created a children's story for age 4 to 7 called Gifts at Christmas, the story of St. Nicholas, written by Alison Condon, artist is Tania Hassonia. And it's a beautiful story reflecting this amazing man who sits at the base of the Santa Claus tradition. And you may think it's okay just to roll with a bit of Santa Claus. Maybe you're highly opposed to Santa Claus. I say let's be all things to all people, that by all possible means we might save some. How about we redeem the origins of the Santa Claus tradition? And to put it very sensitively, I assure you that at the very least Santa Claus knew who St. Nicholas was and gained many of his values and ideas from him. You know, more than that, of course, we would know the true history. So these are 3 powerful stories. Final slide about ideas is Christmas carols. Christmas carols, remember, are the most loved of all Christian songs. So Christmas carols are a remarkable opportunity for us as churches. These 2 images come from the Salvation Army in Wellington Central, I believe, actually Cuba Street. It was around the corner, and that building has come down. But they negotiated, and I believe Rob Grinley, who's connected with our marketing, was involved, with the council and OSH to again get brass bands on the back of trucks to play Christmas carols, which people love to come out of their houses and listen to. They then created events like you see here, carols in the car park, where you simply take a car park, put out some seats, and that truck can turn up, and you've got a whole series with, I assume, the lyrics on phones, but it could be on paper, to sing carols. Let's be creative and engaged with our communities. The Christian message itself sits inside the carols. I was at a community fundraising Christmas carol gathering with no church real leadership involved in it a couple of years ago with wider family. And again, the lyrics were expressly there. The non-Christian DJ, who was the MC, even told the story of Ruatara and Marsden, which really quite surprised me. So this is an opportunity to leverage. Next slide. A very simple vision. Let's keep the Christ in Christmas proactively. We can influence cultural thinking. And if we don't do this, we lose, because no one else will tell the story for us. But we're not powerless. We've got at least 3,000 bases as a part of us, the church. We've got at least 400,000 members, plausibly nearer to 800,000. If we share the vision, one goal, everybody can do it their own way. Next slide. Altogether.co.nz/Christmas. All the ideas we've seen churches, individuals, and businesses do are there. You can click on them and find details. So that was the altogether.co.nz/Christmas. Let's return nativity scenes to Christmas together. It does make a cultural impact. It tells people also, I suggest, that the church is still present rather than being completely invisible, which I put to you for the 80% majority of non-church people in our society. They do not engage a single time with a Christian church in an average year. All of our outreach efforts would connect with about 20% of the non-church population. Our engaging in a broader way to keep Christ in Christmas to be seen, to do something positive and serving, really does make a difference. So prayer items, 3.
Yeah.
That the churches of Aotearoa will unite willingly where beneficial in something like this, but also there's other things we could unite in together that would be beneficial to our mission. Secondly, the nativity displays will reignite awareness of and conversation about the real meaning of Christmas. Some people are far from Christ. Some children don't even know the Nativity story yet. It is a journey, but by being active, present, and engaged, it makes a difference. And thirdly, that people who end up personally struggling through the season, whether from loneliness or grief, brokenness, family or financial struggles, that these people will find the true hope that sits behind Christmas, which is Jesus, who we can also represent through our love and kindness to them. So thank you.